Hello there, gamers. Tonight, I'm joined by returning guest Geoff Bottone of Geoff Quest. Geoff is currently running a freaking awesome Kickstarter for his newest game, A Distant Galaxy. It's a very familiar feeling sci-fi RPG that aims to capture the action, excitement, adventure, and dramatic space battles from a faraway galaxy and put it on your table. Welcome back to the show, Geoff. I am so excited about this game.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's good to be back. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I had a blast with you the last time, and when I saw you launch this, I was like, got to get him back on here. So,
Well, that's good. It's good that I didn't wear out my welcome last time.
oh, not at all. Never ever. So, we were kind of talking about this before the show, that
Yeah.
this has been a germinating seed in your brain for a while. Just how long has this project been in the works?
Almost as long as Boldly Go, actually. So I started working on that a while ago. Like I think 2013, 2015, something like that. And originally it was Boldly Go was a more of a kind of a gentle parody. There's still elements of that in all my games because I cannot be serious to save my life. Um, but originally the game was called Velour and Go-Go Boots because that's what they wear in the original series. And then as time went on, I'm like, this is not haha funny Star Trek. This is actual Star Trek, Star Trek. So I need to change the name. And at about the same time, I was like, well, I love Star Trek and I also love Star Wars. My dad carried me out of the movie theater when I was 5 when I went to see what they now call A New Hope the first time. So that's how long I've been a fan. And I was like, I could probably, it'd be really easy just to, just to change some things and turn it into Star Wars. And my working title for that was Polyester and Power Swords. But again, less silly, more serious. Gave it a more suitably epic name that's still a nod to the inspiration without having the mouse and all of his lawyers come after me. But it's sort of, I have this thing where I have this mental range top with thousands of back burners and all of my projects just cycling around. And so I eventually got to A Distant Galaxy and finally finished it and got it to a point where I was happy with it. And here we are, Kickstarter.
Nice. And it's going well so far. You're what, about a quarter of the way there? A little over?
Yeah, a little bit more than a quarter of the way through, and we've got 20 days to go. So I'm optimistic. I think
That's
we'll make it.
Yeah, I think you will too. And anyone out there watching that's interested, there is a link to the Kickstarter down in the description below. So be sure to
Hooray!
check it out and give it a back and get an amazing book. I don't know what
Oh,
else to
thank you.
tell you
Thank
on
you.
that. It's going to be. I mean, I loved Boldly Go when I got it. So,
Yeah, I'm glad. I remember you were very excited about it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad everyone that's enjoyed it has told me about it because I would I would do this even if there was nobody around. I would be like writing games in my room, like even if there was nobody to play them with. But it's really exciting to send something out into the world and have people like it, and then you get to talk about it, you know, on a
yeah.
on a YouTube show on a Friday night. It's or wherever. It's great.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Like games are just amazing. I don't
Yeah, they
there's
really are.
I can't really think I could make up a word probably by the end of the night to really describe how I feel about games and like how much joy they bring me because there's not really one that encapsulates it.
No, it's true. It's true. Games are a lot of things.
Yeah. So I could go on about games. We're going to have a long talk tonight, my friend.
I
I
think
have the
so. It's
feeling.
sounding like it.
So if you're out there watching, buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Oh yeah, we're going to light speed.
That's right. So aside from the obvious influence with
Mhm.
on this game, are there any other franchises, I guess would be the easiest way to put it, that have kind of leaked in here a little bit or
Yeah,
did
I would say so, definitely. So one of the things when, like I want to make an homage to Star Wars, obviously, but I don't want to make it Star Wars because of legal reasons, but also because Star Wars is already a thing that exists. And I kind of wanted to put my own spin on it. And so I realized that I would have to have other different elements in there to sort of differentiate it. And so, like, Star Wars has all of these crazy alien species. You got your Wookiees and you got your Mon Calamari and all the crazy costs, the walrus faced guy and all that stuff. Um, and I was like, okay, at the very beginning, I'm like, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do? And I had just finished reading a bunch of the foundation books for Isaac Asimov and also rereading Dune.
Oh, such a good series.
Yeah. And in those books, the interesting thing about them is that uh unlike Star Wars or Star Trek or other series like that, there's no other intelligent life in the galaxy. It's just humans. And it's a very human centric story. I mean, obviously those other franchises it's also a human centric story, but the humans wear funny rubber masks and stuff. But this is like, nope, it's just humans. We're going to focus on the humans and that's it. So I said, okay, what if I do something like this? So the game has humans, which are people like us. Then there's neo humans, which are people who have, there's divergent evolution due to planetary conditions or because you would snip, snip, snip with your DNA. And you basically are like 99% human, but you may look weird and you may have a special, like you have echolocation or you can see in the dark or you've got head tentacles or whatever, something like that. But it's all human. Everybody's a human. Except for robots. Robots are robots, but humans made robots, so it's the same thing. And then, speaking of Dune, in Dune there is it was originally off screen, like before now. There was this thing called the Butlerian Jihad, which is why they don't have thinking machines or computers in Dune, and it's because we made AIs. The AIs got too smart. They tried to kill us all. So we killed them back. And now no more robots, no more computers. We've got mentats and stuff like that. So I said, okay, what if the story of the game world has this jihad, Butlerian jihad kind of aesthetic to it? So the reason why, a long, long time ago, everything was great and now everything sucks. And the reason why everything sucks now is because humans built robots and built this great this solar empire. And it's been stable for, generations, expands a galaxy. And then, for reasons that are unclear, this mysterious company shows up and says, we made this new type of robot. And they're super high tech. They have the best AI. They're the hottest new commodity on the market. They're like, tickle me Elmo. Everybody wants one. And so all the households buy this robot and whatever. And so it's so impressive that the Empress, who is the ruler of the empire from the ruling planet of Canalfan, orders like a whole detachment. And there's this big party where they present the robots and then the robots go kill crazy and murder everyone. And then they like glass the planet. And
Wow.
so the humans wind up being like, and so they fight this protracted war against this new type of robot called the Animi. And as the title crawl finishes up, what you learn is that there is now this period of peace where they've pushed the Animi outside of the solar system, or not solar system, bigger than that, outside of the galaxy. And they're probably regrouping and they're going to come back. But now we spent all of our money on war. Our leaders all got killed. There's these factions that are starting up. There's this infrastructure that we haven't been paying attention to for however long that's falling apart. And now we don't trust robots because we think the robots are probably going to rise up and kill us all, even though there has never been any evidence that any robots other than the Animi go kill crazy for some unknown reason. So that's a very long-winded way of saying, yes, there's other influences. And from a gaming standpoint, it's also got a little bit of, I don't know if you've ever played Traveler.
I've dabbled with it. I wouldn't say I've played it.
Okay. So Traveler has this, and my game is not like this, but Traveler has a very large focus on like how long it takes ship to get from point A to point B, and what you can put in ship. And also, maybe you should take some cargo so that when you get to the new place, you could sell it and buy fuel.
Hmm.
And so I have a little mini game in there where it's like, okay, you've got trading mechanics, and you could be a merchant and you can make money, or you could lose lots of money, or you could stiff your creditors and have people come after you with guns, and all that other fun stuff. But it's not. I mean, it's mostly Star Wars, but it's also a kind of galaxy spanning uh game that takes a lot of inspiration from a lot of the big classic franchises with some Star Wars paint,
Nice. Yeah,
I
I
guess.
no, and I like it. I think it's really cool. I was a little surprised when I first saw that you were only going with 3 races or
Mhm.
species, and excuse me. And then it was funny that you brought up Dune, and I'm just like, well, in most franchises, it is just humans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it makes total sense. I like it. Um, what era would you say A Distant Galaxy is set in, like prequel, sequel, OT, or is it like an amalgamation of all of
Mm.
them?
I would say, well, I it's hard to say actually, because we're sort of in that lull between terrible wars where everybody's trying to regroup and find out what they're doing. I think the feel for me is mostly original series, like right before New Hope, where it's like everything's uncertain, everything's falling apart. We don't know who's doing what. There isn't like this massive force that's trying to control everything. It's actually the opposite, where things are just breaking down and people are like systems are splintering off and whatever and trying to do their own thing. And there's people who are the players usually just trying to get by. But it has that sort of, I think, not oppressively so, but that sort of desperation of that imperial era where it's like, if you are up here, you're probably okay and everything's fine forever. But if you're a regular person, things kind of suck a lot and things are uncertain. And and you get the good stuff like the Mandalorian, where it's like if you go to a planet that's not in the center of what's left of the empire and heavily controlled, you're going to have the Wild West in space and criminals and bounty hunters and adventure and all that stuff.
Yep.
So that's, I think in feel it's that. It's definitely not the original, not the original, the prequels, where it's like everything's still kind of okay, and all the lights are on and we're still making new stuff. So yeah, it's about like that, I would say.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. Um, yeah, and all I can picture in my head now that you said that is in the very beginning of Rogue One, a
Hmm.
prison planet, and how grimy that transport looked.
Yeah,
And yeah, I've just got Wobani. Was it Wobani that they were
I
on?
think it is Wobani. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And yeah, just that grittiness to it.
yeah. And that sleazy alley where Andor is like with the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That is. Uh. Yeah. Andor is so good. We got to get.
Oh yeah. I need to watch that. I was, for those that didn't know, we were talking before, and I was telling Dave I don't have Disney Plus, so all I know is what I see in memes online. I'm like, oh, that looks like a good show, I guess.
I would put it near, as far as I rate Star Wars stuff, like near the top. It is some of the best storytelling they have done
That's awesome.
in a
That's really
long
cool.
time. And yeah, when you watch it, there are just some scenes where you're like, wow, like the Empire's not nice.
No,
Well, you
no,
never really see it that much. I mean,
no.
except for them blowing up Alderaan. I mean,
Right, right. It's just
Um,
British dudes in rooms talking.
yeah, but it's really showcased on Andor, like
Hmm.
how brutal they were,
Nice.
and it's yeah, Like they have a couple scenes, that, like I said, that are just like, dang. And yeah, we'll have to talk after this and about what I
Okay.
had mentioned to you.
Okay. Yes. Sounds good. Sounds good.
um, so the one thing you posted, I think it was yesterday, was the dice.
Yes.
And those look so cool.
Yes. I'm really excited about them. I actually have some on my desk, and maybe I will try holding it up with the camera and see if you can see it. So these are, oh, hold camera. Can we
It
do it?
almost had it.
There we go.
Oh,
There we
oh,
go.
there we go.
Okay. So this is the custom made distant galaxy dice. These were designed by my graphic designer who helped me basically design and laid out the book, Matthias Benici. So he did all of the little sun and sword thing and the number thing and made it look real pretty.
They're very
And
pretty.
Q Workshop, which is a custom dice making company in Poland, who I've worked with before. I did the Boldly Go dice with them, and they were great as usual, and did a quick turnaround. So if anybody wants custom dice, talk to them. They're amazing. Um, uh, they sent, well, UPS delivered it to the wrong address, but that's totally not their fault. That's UPS's fault. And it almost gave me a coroner when they're like, "You should have your dice. What do you think?" I'm like, "I don't. Oh God."
Oh no.
So I was running between apartment buildings and I finally found it. And I was like, "Oh, thank God." I was worried that somebody had stolen it and they were just like, "Dice, I thought this was like, I don't know, a
Oh,
Blu-ray player or something, something good."
oh, that would have been horrible.
It would have been.
Yeah, they look super, super nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited about how they turned out.
So that's the Imperial seal on the 5 and 6, right?
Yeah. So this is I had a gentleman named Nino from Indonesia. He did all of my art for the book, and he Matthias laid this out, but he did that sword and sun symbol based on recommendations I had given him. And that is the Imperial seal of the Solar Empire. Similar to the Alliance symbol in Boldly Go, which is a rocket ship and a sun for exploration. This is sun and blade for Empire. just so you know, you're in a different universe.
So with those dice, what does the logo on the 5 and the 6, are they exploding dice or?
No, so it's you have to get a number of successes when you roll. So basically what happens is in the game, everybody has a pile of traits, and traits are things like I'm strong, I'm scruffy, I'm a nerf herder. And anytime you go into a situation, you say, well, all right, I'm going to try going like this, which means I get to pick, let's say, five traits. These five traits are going to help me in this fight, or these five traits are going to help me with this negotiation or whatever. For every trait you get to call on, you get a die to your die pool. And the good news is you can do this with regular dice, so you don't even need these, but you should get them because they're cool. And so you basically take your big pile of dice and you roll them. Any result that's a 5 or a 6 is a success.
Okay.
So that's why the little logo, so you can look and say that's 2 of them. And usually it takes at least 2 successes for you to succeed at an average challenge. And as things get harder, you need more and more and more. And then you're just like, help, I'm out of dice. But that's basically the core mechanic, and that's how almost everything works.
I should have remembered that from Boldly Go. That just shows
That's all right. It's been a while.
That just shows you how out of it I've been this week.
It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, it's the same mechanics from Boldly Go, which is good because as I've told people I've demoed for, it's like if you know that game, you kind of know how to play this one already.
Yay.
With a few key differences. And if you don't know how either, well, it's pretty easy to explain, I hope.
I think it's easy to explain.
You're good. Okay, see? You heard it here first.
Yep. Man, my train of thought just went right out my ear. Oh, you just mentioned some slight changes.
Yes.
and which you have brought up in the Kickstarter, the updates
Yes,
over
that's
the
right.
last few days. One of them being the frequency
Yes.
that binds the universe. And
Yes.
I'd like to bring that up, but I'll let you reveal the name.
Okay. So, in a distant galaxy, there is this original energy in the universe. Do not steal. That is called the Source. And in the lore, there's these monks that basically get on a spaceship and they go and they have a hermitage on their spaceship and they sail around the galaxy for whatever. And while they're meditating, they realize that everything in the galaxy and presumably everything in the universe resonates with this particular frequency. And if you tap into that frequency and attune yourself to it, you get magic powers, or you can influence yourself or others or the world around you to do the impossible. And they call that frequency the source because it's the source of all of this stuff in the universe. And that's where you get your Jedi analogs from. And basically, there's four uh, source disciplines. There's Let me see if I can remember them all. There's martial, which is all the fighty stuff. There's mental, there's physical, and then there's telekinetic. And I have a short attention span and I'm bad at making lists. So there aren't any lists of powers or, well, there's a list of effects, but it's a short list, which I can manage. So it's not like I learn how to do the physical source stuff. So I get to pick X powers and I can use them Y times per day. It's basically like you say, with physical, if you use this power, here are some of the things that you can do. You can run real fast. You can jump hella high. You can heal other people. You can enhance your senses. Basically anything dealing with the body. And you can, weaken people too. So you could point at a foe and they get all clumsy and they fall over, or they drop their gun or whatever. And it's exactly the same thing as the core dice mechanic, where it's like you've got your traits. You say, how do these traits help me use my psychic powers to do cool stuff? And then you roll. And if you succeed, you succeed. And if you don't, you fail. And there's also in the game, and this is similar but slightly different to what you might already know from Boldly Go, because in Boldly Go you have drama points, which are your bennies that you get whenever usually when bad things happen to you, but also like certain things will trigger them and you'll get a pile of them and you're encouraged to spend them. And when you spend them, you can improve your rolls and do cool stuff. So in A Distant Galaxy, I renamed that to source points
Mhm.
because everybody in the galaxy can access the source because it's everywhere. And most people just do it unconsciously. And so when you say, okay, I spend this point to get an extra die roll, let's see what happens. That's you, your character, subconsciously like reaching out, and the source is there. And it's like, oh, suddenly you've got that little bit of extra oomph and you don't know where it comes from. And maybe it's adrenaline, or maybe it's just dumb luck, but really it's this universal energy that's helping you out. And if you are skilled in using the source to do effects, you can spend source points to be like, okay, I have a power that only affects me, and I cast it instantly, and I still have all my actions because I spent a source point. Or I can increase my range, or I can increase my effect, or I can make it more likely to affect someone else, or whatever. And so it actually worked. That was one of those happy accidents where I was like, because I know, like in a lot of the licensed Star Wars games, it's like we've got force points and they do this thing. And am I going to have to come up with a? No, I'm not going to have to come up with another new thing. I have it already. I'm a genius. And that was a good writing day for me, as opposed to the ones where I stare at the computer and I'm just like, maybe I should take up, I don't know, gardening. But yeah, so that's kind of a very brief, a little scattered overview of the source and how you can become one with it and how it works.
That is fantastic. I love it, and I just kind of giggled when I read it in the Kickstarter description. I'm like, that is I'm like, this is brilliant. And the fact that it rhymes with the Force, I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's wonderful.
Yeah. I when I bring it up at conventions, they're like, "Oh God, okay."
I love it.
Some people really love it. Some people are just like, "What
Oh,
are you
why?
doing?"
What are some other tools that are available for players within the book?
Um. So let me see. So okay, if you're familiar with Boldly Go, and not everybody is, but that's okay. I'll explain. In Boldly Go, you have seven different species that your character can be from, and one of the ways that you get traits in Boldly Go is that they come from your species. So, like for instance, humans as a species in general are all indomitable, can think outside the box, and are a warrior species. So anytime you get into a situation and you're human, those are three of the traits you get to do stuff with. So you could say I'm not going to give up because I'm indomitable and I roll. I'm a quiet librarian, but I'm from a warrior species, so I hit him with the stapler. That kind of stuff. Species in Boldly Go also get you one special ability. Humans get what's called the human spirit, which means that they're extremely resistant to mental coercion and domination because we're independent. We like to think we're free thinkers. And somebody says, "You're going to do this." And you're like, "No." And so and that's very, very Star Trek because Kirk was like that literally, "No, I need my pain. And so I wanted to switch that up a bit for a distant galaxy because I had fewer species, but I wanted to do just as much or more with them. So how it shakes out is that, first of all, your special ability gets moved to your background, which in like D&D terms is your class. So like for instance, there's a bounty hunter background and their special ability is you can't hide from me, which
Mhm.
is that if they're pursuing somebody, whenever they get into a scene and that person has left, they always find like you find this matchbook that tells you that he's in the cantina across the street, and then you pull out your gun and go to town. And then there's the noble background, which has as befits my station, which is you can arrest me, but I am a noble, so you put me in the nice cell. And I get some Chianti, and I get 2 phone calls, and da 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 da. So in a distant galaxy, humans, kind of the boring ones, get all the same stuff that they get from Boldly Ghosts because they're the same species, right? They're both humans, so they have the same templates. Robot characters and neo-human characters get to roll on charts. So robot characters get a trait from their chassis, which is what they look like, what they're built for, their function, which is what they're designed to do, and their previous experience. And a lot of these are either D6 rolls, so you get 6 options, or D66, which is you roll 2D6 and you read it as one number, so there's 36 options. And so, like, for instance, you could be, for instance, as a robot, a cute technical robot that knows their way around starships. That was your previous job. Like, just off the top of my head, random character, do with it what you will. You could be a humanoid human relations robot that was the valet for a noble. Again, just pulling that out of thin air. There's also some, because like I said, I can't be completely serious. There's funny ones in there too. There's like one of them is that the robot was a former telemarketer. Another one is that they were used for target practice. And when those things, so it's like they're shooting you. It's like, well, I was used for target practice, so I'm getting out of here. Roll. Neo humans have the most variability. They get to roll on 4 D66 tables. The first one is their home world, and that doesn't give you a trait. That's just something for you to like inform what your character is like. And those are all the good single biome worlds. So you can come from a city planet or a jungle planet or a swamp planet or a desert planet or whatever. And it's just like that's what your world's like. Then there's, what did I call them? There's, you get to roll for your click, your trope, and your mutation. So you could be, again, for instance, a fur-covered neo-human from an arboreal world who is very loyal. Uh, no, or you could be like it was a you come from a dark world that is a I forget what it was. It was like you could roll some pretty bonkers stuff. I'm just trying to think of what off the top of my head, and I'm blanking. But like one of the characters comes from a world of balkanized and suspicious scientists, and another one comes from a constructed planet. So it's an artificial planet where everybody on the planet is industrious toy makers. So they work for this toy company, and that's all you're born there, and you're like, congratulations, welcome to the world. Here's your cubicle, make toys. and and it's great because you can just it's slight variations on a theme, but you can get a lot of really interesting characters. And like I said before, some of the mutations are like I'm source resistant, or I can see in the dark, or I'm toxin resistant, or whatever, I can breathe underwater, that kind of stuff. And then with neo-humans, and this is all flavor, it's like, tell me what you look like, tell me what's the one thing that makes you not look completely human. And it's like, well, I have cat eyes, or I have horns, or my face is black and red for some reason. Is that a species thing? Did I get a really expensive tattoo? Who knows? But that's what I look like.
Nice. I like that because it does allow you to kind of. Well, you mentioned blanking. I'm doing it again.
It's contagious.
It's like allows you, like where you could make a hammerhead if you wanted to,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever, but it keeps it more structured, I guess.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to have to go and be like, here's 120 species. But in a way, that's kind of what that is. And you could play it like I'm a regular human, except I have a tail and I'm like this. Or you could be like a hammerhead or a Mon Calamari or one of the other really weird ones from Star Wars. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's some bizarre Star Wars species out there.
Could be the little green guy that lives in a swamp.
Oh yeah, you could. You could indeed be a little green guy that lives in a swamp. That's definitely in there for sure. My favorite little green guy.
Everybody's favorite little green
guy. Yeah, he's great. It's good stuff.
900 years old.
Mm-hmm. Seen a lot of stuff in 900 years. I have.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'm not even going to try to do that voice.
Oh, no. I won't be able to talk. We're going to have to cut the interview short.
Yeah. In my younger years, I used to be able to do a pretty good Yoda imitation.
Oh, that's good. That's cool.
As I've aged and stopped trying to do it, I've lost it. So I'm sure with some practice, I could probably get it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have to have, family members be like, what are you doing in there? I'm practicing Yoda.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
What are you doing out there? Just leave me alone. So we talked about the source. We did that. Scenario, the source. We've talked about the species. My favorite thing about Star Wars, the ships.
Oh, yes. Yes, so ships are, I don't want to say vastly different. They're still recognizable from Boldly Go, but there is a pretty big difference. So when I was spitballing ideas for Boldly Go back, pre-alpha days, I was like, how am I going to do this? Because like all the other Star Trek games, it's like you've got your Constitution class vessel with all of these stats. And somebody said to me, was like, no, here's the thing. Your system doesn't work that way. And also, the ship's a TV set. It's just there. It doesn't actually do anything until they say it does. So don't worry about giving it hit points or whatever. So in Boldly Go, for those that don't know, your ship is just a pile of traits, more or less, that you get to call upon. So it's like if you have a really good xenobiology lab, you don't have to worry about it until you have a xenobiology problem. And then you're like, I go there and I solve the problem. There are rules for ship combat, but a lot of it is abstracted, and a lot of it is it's very. I mean, it's like the show. It's like, okay, our shields are down and they hit us, and they hit the engine, and so now we don't have an engine. So we have the option of fixing the engine or rerouting power from this other thing to the engine, or and there's a lot of things that you can play around with, and it mimics people running around this really big, really well stocked, really top of the line vessel. And Star Wars isn't like that. It might be like that on the big Imperial frigates, but for the most part, like everybody is driving around in their used station wagon starships, just trying to get from point A to point B. So what I did in A Distant Galaxy was I said, okay, let's redesign this from the ground up. So vehicles in A Distant Galaxy still have traits. You just don't get nearly as many of them. There's also a little bit more on the hard data side, because this is a galaxy where there's scarcity and where things don't always work. So everybody in the game starts with a vehicle that they get to decide, and the vehicle is what is it? Size 1, which means they get a specific number of room, an amount of room for a crew, a specific amount of room for cargo, and you can mix and match. So you nobody can sit there because that's where the delivery carton is going. So you're all going to have to stand on one another until we get to the new planet and sell this. And there's also a limited number of combat options, which are basically shields and weapons. And it doesn't get too much more granular than that. It's like it's a gun, it's a torpedo, it's a shield, whatever. Who cares? And all vehicles start out used with a negative trait. Now, if you're like, well, so we're all flying everywhere in our tiny little ship. So that's not Star Wars. Star Wars is most of us get into one bigger ship. So what happens is somebody could say, usually like someone who's playing the pilot is like, all right, I'm going to keep my ship thing. I have a ship. And you could say, okay, I sacrifice my ship thing to allow you to modify your ship. And what they can do is they can bump the size, they can add a trait, they can add combat mods. And so if everybody, like I had when I ran this at a convention, I think I had like 9 players, and it wound up they had this dreadnought of a ship by the time they were done. It was this huge, unwieldy nightmare ship. And then one guy's like, no, I'm good. I have a speeder bike and I store it in the hold, and that's mine and you can't touch it. So, whatever people want to do is totally fine. But I like that one of the things that it shares from Boldly Go is that ship making is collaborative. And unlike Boldly Go, where the ship damage is abstracted and it's like, well, our engine's hit, but we're still fine. Our weapons are hit, but are still fine. The life support systems got hit. That's not great. In A Distant Galaxy, players have 5 wound levels, and so do ships. And if you take enough damage to reach the last one, either everything's off and you're drifting, you crash, presumably you're in a gravity or there's an asteroid right there, or you blow up dramatically, like they do on screen. And you have shields, and shields can absorb damage, but once they go down, it takes them a while to come back up. So don't get hit again, because it's bad. And I found that it makes my intention, which it worked, was to make it feel more like the movies, where it's like little ships dog fighting one another, World War I, World War II style, instead of giant capital ships just shooting lasers at one another,
bombarding each other with.
Yeah, and you've got to worry about if you take enough damage, they're going to destroy your traits, or they're going to give you a negative trait. And the pilot's special ability, which is really handy, is called Hold Together, Baby. Which is, they're just like, this round, I'm ignoring the fact that the engine's on fire. I'm still flying. Next round, oh God, the weapon systems are offline. I'm ignoring that. The engine's on fire, but I can still shoot. And that's the thing that they can do. And yeah, so it's basically ships are smaller, weaker, but feel much more personal, I think. And it lends that to that crazy, like, flying by the seat of your pants, shooting, trying to get away, from the bigger, badder ships of your enemies, because they're always bigger and badder. That's how it works.
Yep. All I can hear is the Falcon's hyperdrive failing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Choo, 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 choo. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I remember I was watching in 2015. I was watching the first preview of The Force Awakens, and there's that sequence where Ray and Finn are flying the Falcon through all the wreckage of the Star Destroyer on Jakku,
that was
and I
so
was like,
cool.
it was cool, and I'm like, that it has to feel like that, and so hopefully it does.
Nice. I
Yeah,
bet it does. You did a really good job of capturing like Trek with Boldly
thanks,
Go.
thanks.
And I'm 100% positive you will do the same with A Distant Galaxy. So
Fingers crossed. Thank you. I hope so too. I did the best I could.
So another thing we talked about doing that we can jump into here
Oh
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
our top 5 Star Wars scenes, and darn, this was friggin' hard.
It was hard. It
Like
was hard.
like I could probably do a top 100.
Oh yeah,
And it's
for
funny,
sure.
as much as I blank, I can still see Star Wars movies like so vividly in my head.
Yeah. I was actually I wrote this on a Facebook post the other day. I don't know what this is, because there are things that I read and watch that I cannot get into my head. Like, I watched this and I'm like, oh, okay, that was cool. What was it about? I don't remember. Who are the characters? I don't remember. What was the plot? I think there was a diamond or something. I don't know. I sit down, I watch any Star Wars property. They're like, that weird alien in the back. Who is he? I'm like, oh, that's Babu Frick.
Yeah.
He's a bootleg robot repair technician. How do you know that? I don't know. It just gets in there.
Yeah, I get the kind of like, dude, how do you remember that, but you can't remember what you had for breakfast?
Right, right.
And I'm just like, well, Yoda's species isn't known, and I could just go down this list of everything from those
Oh yeah,
movies.
yeah. I
That
could turn into Wikipedia if you give me enough room.
Yeah, and it's like between all the movies, the Disney Plus shows,
Oh yeah.
and all the stuff that they classified as legends.
Hmm.
It's like there's just like so much, like Jorah Seaboth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like
Oh,
it's I read
that scary guy.
yeah, I read that book on a camping trip when I was in, I want to say maybe 8th or ninth grade. I don't
Yeah.
remember when that
Hmm.
book came out exactly off the top of my
It
head. It
was
was like
early 90s, I thought.
89 or 90, 91, somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went on a camping trip with my dad and his partner, and I ignored them the entire time. And I started, it's like where it's so different from how it was then today. Like Star Wars is everywhere.
Yeah.
That was really the first sip from the cup, so to speak, since Return of the Jedi
Oh
for
yeah.
so many of us, that it was like, yes, give me this.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I gobbled that series up. Like,
Yeah.
oof.
So many people. It was like, there's more Star Wars. Put it in my veins.
Yeah, exactly. It's like mainline it. Let's go.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't care what it is. I just want it.
And it's weird because I was talking with my fiance about this earlier. Like, with the exception of like probably The Mandalorian and Andor, I feel like they've got the horse laying on the ground, hitting it with the stick sometimes, just like,
Yeah,
give me
yeah,
another dollar, give me another dollar. And
yeah,
it's like, because they're admittedly like, I love Star Wars, but there's some of the stuff that's just,
yeah. I mean, I think that's true of any franchise that gets big enough. When you've got a lot of people working on it, there's stuff that's amazing and just a new take, and things that, like, I've heard Andor is like that. I've heard The Mandalorian, where you watch it and you're like, that I didn't know I wanted that, but I do.
yeah.
And then there's something that's like, oh, I don't really care. I know, and here's my dirty little secret. A lot of people I know really, really loved Rogue One. And I was like, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, there's some really good stuff in Rogue One. Don't get me wrong. But that's one of the movies that I watched and I'm like, what's it about? It's about the title crawl in episode 4. It's about them getting the
Yeah.
Death Star plans, you know, and that's what, you know, and it's okay. And the people that love it really love it. But I'm just like,
That's funny because for me and it is exactly what you said. It's the opening crawl of
Yeah.
episode 4. And like, I always wanted to see that since I was, God, 2.5 feet tall.
Right.
You know, and when Rogue One came out, I fell in love with it. But I can see why some people are just like, like, we know what happened. They stole the
Yeah.
Death Star plans. It's no
Yeah.
surprise. You know, there definitely was no suspense to the movie.
No. And it, for me, one of the things that was hard is there were a lot of individual character moments that I really liked. Like, I love Donnie Yen and I love
Yeah.
everything the man is in. And his character, Chirrut Imwe,
Yep.
was just great. Like a force sensitive guy, not a Jedi, but who's like super religious, like a Buddhist monk. I was like, this is awesome. He's going to die because we never heard of him before.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm bummed out now. I don't want to be bummed out. It's Star Wars. I want to see something awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like, I kind of wish that it was, and you can do movies about things that are foregone conclusions. They do them all the time and they're great. But for me, this one was like, I know how it's going to end. I know they're probably going to wipe all of these characters from the map. And honestly, Andor is the one property that I am super, super stoked about seeing at some point, because I liked that he was this really, really super gray character. Like, you know, he's a rebel and he's on the side of right and justice, but he's a brutal dude in that movie sometimes.
Yeah.
And
it was the do what it takes for
yeah,
the next mission.
and I was like, yeah, I want to see more of that guy. So they said, here's the Andor show. I'm like, you did it. You gave us more of that guy.
My buddy Tesley's in the chat. What's going on, my friend? He said he loves the hooded robe.
Oh, thanks. This is just something I threw on. I just had it around.
Yeah, like, how about you, Tesley? What did you think of Rogue One? I absolutely loved it, but I think you're right, because it was hard to do any character development where you know that they're basically erasing them at the end. But yeah, like, we've got to get you to see Andor. It is so amazing.
I'm excited to see Andor. That looks really good. And Andy Serkis is in it, and he's the man. And he actually gets to play a person instead of a CGI character.
Oh, and wait till you get to know him in that show.
Oh, no spoilers.
No. I am not one for spoilers. Like,
okay,
one of my friends will always inadvertently spoil stuff for me. And I'm just like, you son of a biscuit. Why are you doing that on me? You know, we did pretty good at veering off path. We said we were going to start our top 5.
Yeah. We started talking about other Star Wars
down
stuff.
the other road. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I will let you start with your number 5.
Okay.
Star Wars scene.
So like you, too much to choose from, and these are all sort of arbitrary picks. I've got other ones arranged in an arbitrary order, and I tried to pick. We said ahead of time that we were trying to limit it just to the 9 movies.
Yes,
because we had all seen those. So I'm going to start, and I think the prequels, I've learned to love them more as time has gone on. I did not really like them when they came out, but I will say one of the things that actually got me the first time I saw it was when Anakin, and this is my number 5, obviously, when Anakin takes revenge on the Sand People for killing his mom. Because I remember leaning towards next to the person I was with in the movie theater and said, he's Darth Vader now. Like that was the dark side seduces you and wins. And I think for me, from that point onward, like he was on the fence, but I'm like, no, that's the point for me when he's Darth Vader. And it's a really powerful moment in a movie that I did not really like very much. And I still think it's not the greatest movie in the franchise, but it was just so powerful when it's like she dies in his arms, then he comes out, and then you hear the lightsaber ignite, and it's like, oh no, oh, this is really bad. And how you feel about Anakin in that moment, like I I like him more now that Dave Filoni has expanded his characterization quite a lot. Did
Yes.
not like him super much in that movie, but I still felt bad for him when he just starts chopping them up, because I'm like, oh no, that's real awful. So that was my number 5 moment.
That really was the tipping point for him.
Yeah.
And the music that John Williams came up with for
Oh,
that scene of just
oh,
that diddle 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 diddle, and it's like it's so perfect for that
oh
scene.
yeah. And then you can just hear some notes of the Imperial March in there, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he knew what he was doing.
Yep. He absolutely did. Like that song, like, oh, it's making the hair on my arm
Yeah,
stand up thinking of that
yeah.
scene. Because,
Amazing stuff.
all right, well, first, I've got to give an honorable mention
Okay.
to my absolute favorite scene when I was, let me see, 8 years old and went to
Hmm.
see Return of the Jedi,
Mm.
which was the Ewok celebration at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That
No,
got
that
me.
was good. I remember that too. That was like, oh, they did it.
Yeah, like back then there weren't spoilers and stuff like there are. They didn't show the whole movie in the trailer like they do now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And like you didn't know,
yeah.
you know? But my number 5 is the Tantive 4 being overtaken by the Star Destroyer in the very opening of episode 4.
Yes.
Because I will
Yes.
never
Perfect
forget
opening.
seeing that as a child and just it was like the scene in The Mask when Jim Carrey's jaw just to the
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa. And at the time, being so young, I didn't know how that was made. And now, as I've gotten older, that scene is even more spectacular, knowing that it was all stop motion and models, like
Yeah.
physical models compared to
Incredible
like,
stuff.
yeah, like what they did, like they revolutionized filmmaking. We all know that now,
Yeah.
but they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
No.
And look what we got.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in Star Trek where it's like, well, we found this stuff in a dumpster, so we're gonna glue it together and spray paint it white and see what
Yeah.
happens. And it's like, it works. You did it.
Yeah. Yep. It was crazy times back then. How
Yeah.
like bubble gum and duct tape. I imagine were their
Right.
I imagine were their best friends back then.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
All right. So number 4 for you, my friend.
Okay, so number 4 is related. Um, it is in The Force Awakens, on the catwalk on Starkiller Base when Kylo Ren kills Han Solo.
Oh,
And I think I did not notice this the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, there is this wonderful thing that they do where there's, I don't know if it's a window or a light, but so Kylo's on the catwalk. He's got Han Solo. He's got his sword. And you can tell he's on the fence, because that's what all these movies are about. It's like, you're on the fence. Are you going to go light or are you going to go dark?
yeah.
And there's like, you can see the setting sun through the window. So there's light coming in behind him. And as the sun goes down and the room gets dark, that's when so it's like the whole scene is telling you, like, he's on the fence, he went dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like that. I will say, I think, and this is sort of add on, Kylo Ren is one of my favorite Star Wars characters because he's so interesting. He's so complicated, and I really, really loved him in the whole sequel trilogy, but especially in The Last Jedi, which is heresy to some people. Um, but yeah, and that scene where it's just like I want I, you know, I have to rededicate myself to the dark side, and that means I have to kill my father, and he does, and it's awful. Then the roar from Chewbacca and the bowcaster shot, it's just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
kill me.
Yep. Like, I was actually shocked that they went through with that, but
I was too.
as soon as it happened, all that I heard in my head was like Harrison Ford talking about how he wanted Han Solo to die back in the original trilogy.
Right?
And I'm like, well, you finally got your way, pal.
Yeah, you did it. He's dead.
Yep. What a way to go out, though.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah. Ooh. So we must have been on the same frequency in the
Okay.
source here
The
today,
source connects us.
because my number 4 comes from The Force Awakens.
Okay.
And it was when Han and Chewie stepped back onto the Falcon.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
even writing that down this afternoon, I got misty-eyed writing that down, because that was like that was like my first. I think I'm allowed one of these per show, but that was like such a fucking heartwarming moment to see him come on, like,
Yeah,
and
it
be like,
was.
Chewie, we're home.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yes, you are.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that was my number 4, and I love that scene. And then how it's like, he's like, you're the one that did the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs. I did it in 12.
God damn it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Chesley says, I said it best about Harrison saying that, felt that same thing about him
Yeah.
wanting to die.
Yeah. And it's
Yep.
like, you did it, buddy. You went out with a bag.
Yeah. He sure did. So number 3 for you, my man.
Yeah. So number 3 for me, and again, this isn't just one scene, this is kind of a whole thing. But this is one of the scenes that, like, I go back on YouTube and watch it sometimes because it's so good, which is when Luke meets the Emperor for the first time, and they're having that discussion in the throne room. It's like, your faith in your friends is yours, as the battle's raging outside, and it's like, and he's just like toying with him, like, do it. You want to kill me? I'm right here. Bring it. Your dad wants you to do it. You can end this right now and save your friends. And Luke's just like, and it's just like, Ian McDiarmid is so good.
Yeah.
Like, Palpatine is a very simple villain, but he's such a great villain. And every time he's on screen, it's magical. And that was the first time I ever saw him in anything. I was like, he's so awful. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Like, when I was a kid, I hated the Emperor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was the worst.
Like, after Return of the Jedi, I was like, dude, I'm glad he's dead.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, the hell with you, pal.
Yeah. I remember seeing, I think I was 10 or so years old. I saw it in the theaters. I saw Return of the Jedi in the theaters. And I remember when Vader picks him up to huck him down the shaft and there's the lightning everywhere. Like, there were people up in front, like, cheering, like I've never seen it before, since like standing ovation to the screen. And I was like, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
To hell with that guy.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that guy.
The only thing that I think is missing from Return of the Jedi is a do it.
Yes, do it.
So my number 3, I kind of copped out a little bit. I said any scene with an AT-AT, because ever since I was 4 years old and first saw them on the big screen, I have been, I wanted one, and like, as the toy version.
Oh yeah.
Never gotten one, so it's still like one of my bucket list things to get, is like an old school ESB boxed. Then I'm going to rip the box open and take it out. I don't care about its value. I just want the thing. And I think that was another thing that I really liked about Rogue One, was
Oh yeah,
when they were
the assault on
on,
Scarif.
yeah, when they
Yeah.
were on Scarif, and then that X-wing just comes in and shoom through the side and just blew it to bits, and I was like, yes.
Right.
So yeah, I copped out on number 3.
I
So
don't think so. Yeah, that and the ATSTs, those are iconic though. Those are
yeah,
like
they
I
really are.
remember seeing them coming out of the mist on Huff, and it's like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's real bad.
Yep. Yep. That is bad news bears. Big
Oh
time.
yes.
That was the only thing, now in hindsight, thinking about it, is maybe the lasers on X-Wings are more powerful, but those snow speeders were coming in from the side, hitting the armor plating, and it was just bouncing off.
Yeah.
And the X-Wing on Scarif just comes in like, yeah, this is easy, ba-boom. And I've never
Come
thought
on.
about that until just now, and it's
Yeah.
like, huh. So I don't know. I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
No, they did it. It was amazing.
And Tefsley said he had to turn on the scene with Luke meeting the Emperor. You'll have to let us know what you think.
Oh, it's so good.
It is so good. What is it, boy? All right, number 2.
Okay. So, like I said before, the movie's a hot mess, but I really like The Last Jedi a lot. I think after Empire, it's my favorite Star Wars movie.
Wow.
And I have gotten into arguments with people about this. And I'm really going to get heat from this next one because my number 2 pick is the Holdo maneuver.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's this, like, it's very silly because you would think if they could do this, they would be doing it all the time, like
Right.
light speed ramming one another, and it never occurs to them to do it. And it's just, but the way it's shot, where Holdo is like, I know it's at stake here. Buy time. The only one on the ship. Everything, all the controls are rewired to the bridge. And she turns the ship around, and everybody's like, what the fuck is she doing? And then and there it goes. And there's that moment where you realize what she's doing, and then Hux realizes what she's doing. And he's just like, wait, no. Like, get out of the way. Like, this is really bad. She's doing something very silly. And then there's that shot of everything goes quiet, and you just see the light speed tear through the giant ship.
Yeah.
And I was literally stunned by that. I'm like, you did it. You actually did that thing. Like, that's crazy. That is, and then they're fighting in the aftermath of that. It gave me chills. And I know that sounds weird because I know Last Jedi is a lot of people's least favorite Star Wars movie, but that's my number 2. It was very affecting, even though thinking about it later, it's like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
It doesn't, but they probably wouldn't have done it because back when it was the rebellion, they were so limited on ships and
Right.
people that I don't know that they necessarily would have. They may have known. Maybe somebody did it back then, and that's how she knew how to do it.
Yeah.
We don't know.
No.
So my number 2 is where I ran into my tie that I
Oh,
told
okay.
you about.
Appropriate to have ties in Star Wars.
So 2.1 is one of my favorite scenes, and I almost put this one number 1, is when Luke and Vader confront each other on Bespin in
yes,
in the carbon freeze chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's doing the same thing as talking about Han. It's like when they're in there and Luke lights up his lightsaber first, and then Vader turns his on, and it's like, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's like, is he going to have the same fate as Obi-Wan?
Right.
Because, yeah, there were so many things out of that movie that were unknown at the time.
Oh, yeah. And you could, like, I didn't realize this because I was very young the first time I watched it, but going back, you could tell that Vader is just like, yeah, good effort, kid.
Yep. It's like he's got his broomstick out while this other guy's got his like perfectly honed steel sword ready to kill
Right.
him. And he's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Hold on. Oh, hold on. I'm going to take a drink. Yep.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm gonna push you out a window.
Yeah.
No, that is my favorite lightsaber duel by a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2.2
Mm-hmm.
is Vader in Rogue One
In
coming
the
down
hallway.
that hallway
Oh,
when it's just
that is brutal.
when it's just pitch black.
Yeah.
And then you see everything turn red from his viewpoint, really. 'Cause
Right.
you see their faces turn red and their eyes just go wide, like, oh shit, this is the guy we've all heard about.
Right.
We're
He's
dead
going
meat.
to kill us
Yeah.
now.
You know, and to get to see, and that's what I liked about especially the end of Rogue One, was seeing how close they came to failing.
Yeah.
You know, like if that one guy hadn't held his arm out the hole and been shaking the file, it may not
Yeah.
have, and the right guy hadn't gone by, it may have never gotten to the rebels.
Yeah. No, that was a really tense scene, and I really like it too because it recontextualizes the beginning of A New Hope,
Yes.
where Leia's like, yeah, I'm on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. It's for the Senate. And he's like, I know it was you.
Yeah.
I was there. I killed half of these guys.
It's like your
Like,
ship
don't.
was attached to mine.
Yeah.
I saw you wave to me out the window.
Right. Right. And I'm like, oh man, Leia's a badass.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you think about that, that's takes some friggin' gumption to lie straight faced to probably the biggest badass in the galaxy. And yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's like
Oh,
I had
good
never
stuff.
thought about that until now, and it kind of caught me off of like, wow. Like, yeah, she completely just was like, yeah, I don't care if you believe me. This is what I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. Deal with it.
Yep. This is what happened.
Mhm.
All right, so we got the big drum roll.
Yeah,
for
number one. So I almost put lightsaber fight in Carbon Freezing Room.
Oh, okay.
It's almost my number one. But I think the one that is always going to get me every time is the entire first Death Star trench run sequence.
Ooh.
Like, you know, copy gold 2, I'm on the leader. You know, the
Yeah.
guns, they've stopped. It's just, and like you were saying, the John Williams score absolutely makes that as epic as it feels every time I watch it. It's amazing.
Like, even knowing that Han's coming in at the end,
Oh,
I
yeah.
still get tense when Vader's got his crosshairs bouncing around there. And
Yeah.
it's like, fucking push the fucking trigger.
Do it.
Yeah. Do it.
Do it. Yeah, no, that's another one other than the one I was talking about before with meeting the Emperor. That's the one I go back to and watch. And I've done that a couple of times. Like, I'm stuck writing A Distant Galaxy. I don't know what to do next. It's like, time to watch Luke blow up the Death Star. That'll make me feel better.
Yeah, I got to get a VHS player because I still have Episode 4 and Empire on the original
Oh,
VHS
wow.
releases. So
Special edition or pre-special edition?
pre-special edition. These were from when my brother was stationed out in Tustin,
Oh, wow.
California, with the Marines from back, I want to say, 85, maybe.
Okay, that's a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're still functional, I don't know.
Right.
I would what I'd like to do is hand them off to someone to like copy them onto new versions
Yeah.
that knows what they're doing. But I've got my number ones.
Yeah, you're number one.
My number one, and it's because I thought this was a bald-faced lie when I was a little 5-year-old kid sitting in the theater watching
I
this.
think I know what you're going to say.
when I heard I am your father, I
Right.
was just like, you are a stinking liar, and you're trying to
Right.
use the dark side here to trick Luke.
Right.
And then he's on the Falcon, and he's like, son, father. And it's like, no, it's actually
Yeah.
true. And that,
I refuse to believe it until Return of the Jedi when Obi-Wan's like, no, no, he totally is. Sorry.
yeah. And like, oh, it's got the hair on the back of my neck standing
Yeah.
up. And it just shows you how big of a freaking nerd I am.
Oh yeah.
Of like the fact that like Vader, and yeah, it's more of thinking back to when I was 4. I'm like, no, this dude is lying.
Mhm.
He is a liar, and he's trying to trick Luke. And like 10 minutes later, he's like, father. And I'm like, no.
No, no, don't let him get in your
I
head.
think really, as young as I was, it probably was still the same for me until Return of the Jedi when Obi-Wan confirmed it. I didn't believe it. And it was
Yeah.
like, shit.
Yeah. And the great thing about that scene is you can tell that Luke is feeling exactly the same way. He's like, nope, nope, I don't believe you. This is some kind of last second thing.
Yeah. And I think he knew before he jumped
Yeah.
because of the last no, like the no that he lets out.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, of like, no, no, no. And it's like, he had to have figured it out right at that point and been like, I've wondered, did he mean to just jump so that he couldn't join the dark side? Or do you think,
That's what I've always thought. I always thought it was like, you can either kill me or I kill you or you join me. And he's like,
he
I'm out.
yeah. And it's just happenstance. Maybe it was the force that guided him over to that tube or whatever.
Right.
Or did he guide himself? It's like, I wish we had answers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with not having all of the answers. I'm okay that the movie leaves it kind of
Yeah.
ambiguous. Like, is he trying to commit suicide in that moment? Is he just trying to get away because he can't deal with the, like, that's what makes it such a powerful scene.
Yeah.
And then in the end, like, there's that little hint where he's like, Leia, and Leia hears him, and the Falcon comes in. It's like, so good, so heart-wrenching.
Yep. It was. And then to like, I know I cried in Return of the Jedi when the Ewoks died.
Oh,
I was such a little guy, and I fell right in love with them. And there's
I loved the Ewoks for so long. I was such a little nerd.
yep. I had like all the, if anything, I had more Ewok action figures than any other.
Nice.
Like any of the other figures. Like I had friends that had like 3 or 4 stormtroopers. Well, I had 3 or 4 Wickets. I would take the little hood off. So you had one without the hood, one with the hood. So one was Wicket, one wasn't. And
right. It's gonna have a whole little Ewok raiding party.
yeah, it was great. Speaking of that, have you ever played any of the PlayStation 4? What is it? There's the Star Wars game, and I can't think of the name of it.
Fallen Order? Is
No,
that it?
it's not. It's the one before that, and I can see it where you get to play and like, oh, what is it? Chesley jumped out of the chat, or he might be able to tell me. It's the one where you play through as the different characters. Like you'll get to play a little bit as Luke, then as
Oh, is that Battlegrounds?
Battlefront.
Battlefront.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now I forget where I was going with that. Damn it. Oh, but I was asking you if you had played it, as we were talking.
A little bit here and there.
We were talking about, we had gone away from number 1. We were, what were we just, we make a pair.
We sure do. What were we talking about? I don't know. I think we were talking about Luke throwing himself off of Bespin.
Yeah, and then we went somewhere that got me to think of Battlefront and something I was going to tell you from that. And I don't.
Because there is a sequence where you can play Darth Vader invading the Hoth base in that, I
Yeah,
think.
that is so fun.
It is. And
um,
then the Wampas come walking in for whatever reason.
yeah, and there's a load of them. There's like
Oh
20 of
yeah.
them. But yeah, I don't remember why went to that. There was something to do with The Empire Strikes Back, and I don't remember
Mhm.
what it was. But yeah, so yeah. Um, and now they're talking about doing the Rogue Squadron movie that's been
Yeah.
shelved, unshelved, shelved,
Mhm.
and a go. And I really hope they make it.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too, and I'm feeling like somebody, maybe Dave Filoni, maybe somebody else, is really trying to make heir to the Empire because it's like we've got a live action Thrawn now, and it's like I'm like I see what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for you,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't know what the heck they're up to. Like they've kind of got me puzzled with
Yeah,
what
there's a
they're up
lot
to.
going on.
And what I've been reading is they're basically going to make a movie that's a culmination of all the new series coming together, with the exception of Andor, where that
Right.
was original trilogy
Right.
era. But they're taking like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, The Book of Boba Fett, and I feel like there's another one that I'm missing.
I don't know.
No, I'm not sure, because there's just been so much Star Wars that I'm just like, I'm missing one, but I'm probably not. But they're gonna tie them all together in one movie, I guess, which I
That
think
would,
is unfair
yeah.
from someone like yours perspective that may not have seen all of what this culmination
No.
is. You know, it's like, because you're gonna be sitting there through 80% of the movie, like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah. Who's this person? Oh,
Yeah.
that's the person that Ahsoka met, who is mentioned briefly in Rebels. Okay. But in fairness, I've only watched like half of the MCU movies and none of the TV shows except for what the heck is it? Luke Cage, which was amazing.
Luke Cage was great.
Yeah, so good. And I'm like, so what happened? Okay, Sokovia Accords. I'm like, got it. Let's go.
Yep. And there's someone that's supposed to be making a trilogy, I think.
Really? I
I
had thought that somebody was going to do that and then they shelved it, but I guess
I know Ryan Johnson initially was talked
yeah.
about, and after the fallout, and I completely agree with you that The Last Jedi is underrated. There are none of the movies I can say I hate.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I can say I highly dislike is Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he is annoying.
He is annoying.
And the fact that, you know, I don't know, he just annoyed the living bajumpus out of me. And it is like, what is this guy? And
Yeah, what are you doing here?
I felt really bad for Ahmed Best,
I did
because
too. I did too.
he got raked through the coals for acting.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
like
like,
I was just doing my job. Like, you people need to relax.
hmm. Like well, look at all the crap that they were giving Kelly Marie Tran.
Oh, yeah, that was criminal.
Yeah. And it's
She
like,
was she was great. She was one of my favorite characters in
yeah,
Last Jedi. She came on the screen. I'm like, "Ooh, I like you. Let's see where this is going."
yeah, she was a little
Yeah.
Spitfire,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was just like, hell yeah. It reminded me of my mom. Like, the hell no, you're not doing that. Zap.
Yeah, right. It's like, "Oh, you're one of the famous people, or you're trying to escape?" No.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere, buddy.
Yeah.
um, but like, so many people hated the Kylo and Luke lightsaber fight, and I love that little rumble
Oh,
between the
I
two
loved
of
it
them.
so much. It was so good. And the thing that was funny is I saw this with my family My dad liked science fiction. I love science fiction. The rest of my family is just like, what is this crap? And my sister has never understood and has never gotten Star Wars. And she's like, well, if everybody's going, I'm going to go, but I protest the whole way. And the thing that I thought was really amazing is she's like, anytime I have any Star Wars stuff on and she comes in the room, she's like, what is this about? What are they doing? Who is this guy? Why does he have tentacles on his head? I don't get it. She figured out before I did that Luke wasn't really there.
Oh, I was so slow to pick up on that.
I was like, what is going on? And she's like, he's not there. And I'm like, how do you know she said, because he moved his feet. And when anybody else ever moves on, I forget what the name of that planet is. Oh, nerd fail.
Oh,
But like when you scrape the white salt, it turns red.
yeah.
And he's moving around and it doesn't turn red. And I'm like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And it got even better. But just when they like unload all of the AT-AT main guns at him, and he's just like,
yeah, that was so good. And then
it's like, yes, because that was a thing that I had heard so much stuff before they did Force Awakens about, is Luke going to be in it? What's he going to do? Mark Hamill saying is in it. And the big prevailing thing is like, something bad's going to happen to him. He's going to die or he's going to turn evil. I'm like, please don't turn evil. Please don't. And he didn't. He was just depressed and I could live with that. But when he comes back and he does that final, like, I'm Luke Skywalker, man. You can't touch this. Come on. And it's like, yes.
yeah, it was like he walked up. He's like, I'm not Luke Skywalker. I'm Luke mother effing Skywalker.
Heck yes. Heck
And
yes.
like when he did that back bend and Kylo's lightsaber just goes over his
Yeah.
face, I was just like, whoa, he's got the moves for an old man.
He does. He does.
And it was so
Ah.
cool to see, like, because in his isolation, I feel like he became peak Jedi.
Yeah.
And we've never gotten to see peak, even with the prequel trilogy, they were at their height, but they weren't at their peak.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
really got to see like what a true Jedi could do.
Yeah.
And it was
Well,
so neat.
yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that because I read something somewhere on the internet a long time ago that I thought was really interesting that kind of points a little bit to what you're talking to, where it's like, they basically said Luke actually isn't a Jedi. He was trained by Jedi. He knows the Jedi ways, but he doesn't have that whole, like, from the prequel, all of that stuff.
The
all
dogma to go.
Yeah,
with
you
it.
don't you don't have attachments. You don't do this. You don't do that. Da 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 da. You cut yourself off, and you're just you're whatever. So he's got. So they basically said he's a good person who's got all of the positive stuff of the Jedi, but is in tune with his emotions like a Sith is. And so he's something else. And so, like, when you see him being peak badass, it's because he brought balance to the Force.
Yeah.
And I read that and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really cool thought.
Yep. That was actually
Where it's just like
quite
Luke Skywalker
true.
outside the box.
That is quite true. I hadn't thought of that until you.
I didn't either until I read it, and I'm like, so many smart people out there. Way smarter than me coming up with all this stuff.
Did you? I'm trying to remember. I think Rebels started on the Cartoon Network, didn't it?
Yeah.
Did you get to see that?
I got to see a couple episodes of that.
Like, there's a character in there. In case you go back and watch it, I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay.
That I feel like Luke embodied.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
That if you ever do go back and watch it, I think it's like season 3 or 4, they meet this character that is that Kanan, the Jedi amongst the group, is like very confrontational with it first. And he's just like, do you think being a Jedi is all about swinging your laser sword and doing this and doing that? And he's like, nah, dude, you're missing like half of it.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
And it is such a cool character. It's such a cool way to bring that concept into like the midsection of the prequel era and the original trilogy, that
Right.
we
Right.
get to see it before Luke, and then they
Yeah.
get to see it with Luke, and even again with stuff I won't spoil,
Okay.
with
Appreciate it.
that it's neat because it's been touched on in multiple eras now throughout,
Yeah.
and it's very cool.
Yeah. When they manage to bring it all together, it's some great stuff. It's really, really solid.
And that was another thing with the sequel trilogy that drives me nuts, is there are so many people that are like, it doesn't have anything to do with what happened before. And I've heard that complaint from people, and it's like, dude, it does, because all of the characters from the original trilogy are there, and
Right.
it's basically that the Empire is reborn as anew,
Right.
and it's like, how is it not connected?
Yeah. It's all the same arcs. It's about like, can you be redeemed? You know, what does serving the light side of the force mean? All that other like come on.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Well, the other thing too is, like, other people were like, "Oh, it's just retelling the same stories as the original trilogy in a different way."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, dude, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the world.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, we never learn anything.
no, it's like, we're gonna wind up repeating a lot of the same shit over and over until we smarten up. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to demonstrate with the sequel trilogy, is
Yeah.
it's history's going to repeat itself until these
Right.
guys figure it out.
Yeah. And that's why I really like Kylo Ren, because he's a very diff like people say, oh, he's just Darth Vader point too. And I'm like, no, 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 no. He comes at it from a different way. Like the Empire is coded as Nazis. The First Order is neo-Nazis, and Kylo Ren is an angry kid who gets in with a bad crowd
Yeah.
and isn't as bad as he thinks he is, and eventually manages to claw his way out.
Yeah.
And that's what I find fascinating about him.
I completely agree with you. And I've never looked at it of like how you just described it, of it being like going from the Nazi regime to the neo-Nazis
Yeah,
nowadays. And that really is. And it's like he got to that point of like, oh my God, this is sickening stuff. I've got to make it stop.
yeah. Kylo Ren's been on Reddit too long, and now he needs to go outside.
Yeah. Did you see the Saturday Night Live skit with Adam Driver?
Oh, I
Where it was
did.
the
Yeah,
undercover boss with Kylo
that was
Ren?
really funny. I hadn't seen Adam Driver in anything until The Force Awakens, and like he's a really good actor. He's a really funny guy. He's got great range, and I hear Kylo Ren shredded. Here he has an 8-pack, and it was like, no, shut up. It's like so good.
Yeah, he did so good with that bit. And I think it was almost in a way like a slight middle finger to the crowd. That's like, Kylo Ren's so emo, and he's just emo Vader.
Yeah.
And because he kind of played on that throughout that
Oh, he
skit.
did.
And yeah, he kind of was a little emo, but you got to look at what the guy's dealing with. For one thing, he knows his lineage,
Yeah.
the pressure he's got on himself. He thinks his uncle tried to kill him.
Yeah.
He did he was going to kill him. And he was probably brought up by Luke of like, you're the chosen one, or something along those lines, of like, you're going to be so special. And then you've got your uncle standing over you like, hi, I'm going to cut you in half.
Right. Right. Because I think you might turn bad.
Yeah.
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 And I mean, they even do that with Luke, where it's like, I shouldn't have failed. I'm Luke Skywalker. And it's like, well, that's okay.
Yeah. People make mistakes.
Yeah. Now you don't need to be a hermit on a forced planet because you made a mistake. You got to go out there and fix it, bud. Come on.
Yeah. Like, it was kind of, I don't know. Like, if he had stuck around, nothing like that would have happened. Like, the First Order never would have risen, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. My biggest question for the sequel trilogy is like, where did you guys come from? Like, how did that happen? I thought there was a new republic. I thought things were going to be okay, and it's just like, nope. Here we are. I was like, oh, all right.
I have theories, but it would require talking about stuff you haven't seen.
Fair enough. Fair
So
enough.
I have theories. We'll get it figured out how to. I wish that they made it simple enough to like burn like a DVD so I could send you the
Right.
shows to watch.
Here's all the plot points you need to know.
Yeah. like a what's the Microsoft program that you do the slideshows in?
Oh, PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. Yeah, make you a PowerPoint presentation
Right.
of everything that you've missed with like the Mandalorian standing there doing 2 thumbs up and stuff like that.
This is the child. Bam.
Yeah, boy, talk about a cash cow for Lucas. Well, Disney now, but
No kidding.
like all the child stuff that was out after that. And it's like, yeah, like you talk about spoilers. There's one that they just sort of like, yeah, we're going to make a ton of money off this. We're going to tell the world about him. And it's, but
yeah, that was whoever came up with that. I hope they got a corner office out of it.
I hope they got a lot more because that was, oh man. And he's so dang cute with those big eyes.
He is cute.
And he's so fun in the series. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything I've seen about that character, I'm like, this is great. He's great. The Mandalorian interacting with him is fantastic.
Yeah. And so many Mandalorians.
Yes.
And it's like they're like, it's like they took your bottle of soda you've got there. They're like, you want Mandalorians? They shook it up and just went, right, here you go.
Yeah. And you like Boba Fett, right? Yeah. Do you want a lot more? How much more? How much you got?
Man, the soundtrack for The Mandalorian. Ludwig Göransson did the soundtrack.
I don't know him.
He did Inception.
Oh, all right.
And he's done a few others, and he's just phenomenal. But he used a didgeridoo. Oh, I'm going to screw that name of that instrument up. Didgeridoo. And this giant recorder to make the theme song for The Mandalorian.
Nice.
And it's so funny because it's like they have a breakdown on Disney Plus of the entire first season where they sit and do like a round table with all the authors, which is I enjoyed as much as the show itself.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go, blanking again. Oh, don't I hate being like this sometimes?
Yes.
Sorry, Tesla.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, it's like the hot red wire that just goes
and it's gone.
What were we?
We're talking about the score of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yes. When he first they're doing the breakdown of the episodes, and there was an episode solely about the music, and he's like, yeah, this is every parent's worst nightmare, and he brings out this giant recorder. And
yes, I remember the recorders from grade school.
I always tried to play, I don't know what the name of the song is, but the one that you always hear in like shows and movies when they're trying to charm the snake.
Mm-hmm.
And I was horrible on the recorder.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how my mother did not grab mine and just throw the fucking thing in the trash is...
She probably had to pay for it or put a deposit.
She's probably like, I want to throw it out, but I can't.
Either you become a talented musician or this will go back to school soon and we'll be done.
Oh. Well, my friend, I am getting extremely tired.
It is late on a Friday, so I don't blame you.
And I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. Is there
Yes.
anything we haven't mentioned about the Kickstarter, especially that you would like to bring up?
I mean, it's a Kickstarter. You know how those go. You can get as little as the PDF of the game, which is the game. It's the whole thing. Higher tiers will get you a physical copy of the book, some of the dice, so that you can roll on your very own. Even higher tiers are going to get you a signed copy of the book by me, which probably won't be worth anything ever. But hey, you could brag to your friends, maybe. The guy who wrote this signed it. That's cool. Um, One of the things that I like to do, and this is true if you've ever read any game thing I've ever written, is I like to have a cast of characters that shows up in the example text and tells little stories about how the rules work.
Yes.
And I have what I call the Geoff Quest example players, which are the real people who play the characters. So, and most of them just have like generic names. And I did this for Boldly Go too, where it's like if you pledge a certain amount, in addition to all the other cool stuff you get, uh, your name here is one of the example players. So instead of like, I forget, like Alice says her character, blah blah blah. It's Dave. I mean, and that doesn't sound any less generic, but it's you, and you get your name in the front of the book. And the highest tier is, I'll run you through a bespoke game for you and several of your friends, for 4 hours over something like this, and you get to the full experience. You get the robe, you get everything.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I love running games. I also love running. My favorite thing to do, just as an aside, is I love running the same adventure for different groups of people, because every group approaches it differently, and every group has a surprise or two for me in it. I'm like, never would have thought of that. That's brilliant. Or you're doing what? That's insane.
You've just derailed my plans.
Yeah, but it's like you don't have to know. We'll figure this out. It'll be good. You lit it on fire. Okay.
Fire bad.
Yeah. But yeah, so the basic gist is that you can go to Kickstarter and look up A Distant Galaxy, and there I'll be. I am corresponding with anybody who wants to talk to me over the Kickstarter app during the Kickstarter, and I've had several people who backed Boldly Go who are also backing this, which is amazing and great. And they've asked me questions, and a lot of the questions that they've asked me, like, so you've got this thing called the source. What's the deal with that? How do ships work? What's the difference between this and that? That'll show up in an update probably, because, engagement's good. And I like talking to people about the game, because
Yeah.
I'm a narcissist at heart. What can I say?
I think you're
but
doing
yeah,
a
that's it.
phenomenal job of engaging folks on there. I was like, dang, because you're replying to everybody.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you don't always see that on Kickstarter.
no, and I try to do that because I have been on the other end of that, where it's like, hey, so what's and there's radio silence, and it's like, that's frustrating. Maybe I should take my money back. And I'm like, no, 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 don't do that. I'll talk to you. I promise. But you can also go to my site, which is geoffquest.com, for other updates and stuff. I don't know. The Kickstarters are going to be where it's at until the beginning of December, but if you want to follow me other places, I'm on Facebook, I'm on whatever is left of Twitter, I'm on the Blue Sky thing. Yeah, you can find me wherever. I'm around.
Yeah, and get out and back the Kickstarter, folks.
Yeah.
And yeah, jump on it. And there's still 21 days?
20 days.
So 20 days.
So you've got 2/3 of the time.
Excellent. Get out there and back it. Get some cool dice, an awesome book, and help Geoff bring our childhood to reality.
Yes. Yes. Just like several other licensed companies have.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, you have a great night out there. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.